What's quack-a-lacking, guys? I'm a Duck Quack here, and welcome back to another episode around marquee matchups. So this week we're back into action with the Champions League, Europa League, other kind of cups as well. So what I've done is compiled a list of quite a few games here, and I'll give you my logic and reasoning to each of them. So we'll start with the completely obvious ones. We've got Atletico Real Madrid, one of the semi-finals in the Champions League. We've also got Juventus against Monaco, which is the other semi-final in the Champions League. Now, the semi-finals are spread across 2 weeks, so the chances of them both being included this week, personally I see it as pretty low. I imagine we're either going to get Juventus-Monaco, or we're going to get Real Madrid against Atletico. Again, if you're investing in these players, it's fairly obvious who we want to go for. We want to be going for golds, we want to be going for them in key positions, but we also, I think, I'm guessing here, but maybe higher rated than before. For example, I picked up investments for these two before I did my research. I kind of regret it, because I spent all my coins on them. But for Juventus, I picked up Mandzukic, about 1,400 coins for an 83 rated player. For Real Madrid, I picked up Kovacic, who is an 81 rated player for about 1,300 coins. Now, the reason I went for these guys is they're in key positions, so they're definitely going to be included in the squad, in the formation, whatever they choose. And on top of that, they're gold, rare, which has been a requirement previously, and of decent rating to help boost the team up. Previously, we've seen lower rated cards barely rise in price. The Arsenal-Tottenham game being an example, where Walcott went to about 2,500, 3,000 coins, and other players from Spurs that were like 78 rated hovered at around 1,500 coins maybe. So there is more money to be made if you invest smartly. We then move on to the Europa League game. So we've got Ajax against Lyon, and then we've got Celta Vigo against Manchester United. In my opinion, we're going to see the exact same logic here. One of these games is going to be included this week, one of them the following week. Now, which one it is as good as guess as anyone can have, basically. If we're going for it again, follow the same logic. Rare players, decent quality rating, decent positions. It's very straightforward. Not a lot needs to be said about this one. We then move on to some slightly different choices, because as we know, EA like to include some bigger games and then some smaller games in terms of the teams that are playing, not in terms of how big the game is, I guess. So the first one we're going to look at is going to be in the Russian league here. So we've got FC Ural against Lokomotiv Moscow. Now this is the Russian Cup final, and if they're not going to include this one in a marquee matchups that's based around cup games, then I don't know when they would include it. If we're picking up players here, you can see that for FC Ural, this is their highest rated player, a 76 rated centre-back. We want to be smart with our investments. If you can pick up gold players, fantastic, grab them for discard. If you can pick up silver players for discard, grab them for discard. Just be smart with it. Lokomotiv Moscow obviously has a few different choices, a few easier choices. So if you decide to go down this route, then again, just make sure you're picking them up for discard. Key positions, rating and quality probably shouldn't be too much of an issue here. If you can pick up Russian players, though, I always find that to be beneficial because they have used that before as a requirement, X amount of Russian players, and there's enough players in different nationalities to cover it if that's not a requirement. We then move on to the final game I've selected for this episode, and this game here is a Polish game, and it's between, I'm going to try and pronounce it, I'm going to get it horribly wrong, Arka Gdynia and Lech Poznan. Probably absolutely destroyed that, and I apologise to any Polish football fans out there. So the reason for this one is exactly the same as the Russian game. It is a cup final between the two teams. And if we're picking up investments here, you can see the highest rated players is 72 and 74 respectively. We're going to be looking at silver or bronze players. If silver players are a little bit inflated and you can't get them for discard, just pick up the bronze ones from these clubs. If they are required, it's going to be a huge profit for us. Simply because they've got no gold players. I don't think that their bronze players flood the market either. So we could see a big rise. If by any chance they need 2 players from each club, which is almost impossible, but if they do, we'd make absolutely millions. If they need maybe 2 players from both teams, we're still going to be in a good position because neither of them have golds across the board. So that's going to wrap up a very short video on marquee matchups here. We've obviously got the Champions League, the Europa League, the Russian Cup final, and the Polish Cup final. So we've got loads of options. The Champions League and the Europa League games, harder to guess, just because we don't know which ones will be included out of the 4. Maybe it's both Champions League, maybe it's both Europa games. We'll never know until they release it. These ones down here seem a lot less risky. If they're included, fantastic, we make a massive profit potentially. If they're not included, then, well, we've lost nothing because we bought a discard. Anyway, guys, going to wrap the video up there. Just a nice short one. I'm sorry I couldn't actually get onto the market to show you some examples of players, but if anyone's playing this morning, then you'll probably know the transfer market is not working and the servers are absolute garbage. So I actually have an excuse. I'm not just being lazy, I promise. If you did enjoy the video, though, guys, please make sure you drop a like, subscribe if you're new, comment down with any questions, suggestions, or anything that I might have missed or got wrong. And again, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.